What is up, YouTube? Today we're going to be building a motorized drift trike. I believe I have everything I need to build it. First we have our Schwinn Predator BMX bike. I got this at a bike store for 40 bucks. At first I really didn't want to destroy it and take it apart, but after looking at this thing, the chain's rusted shut, won't turn or anything. There's no pedals, everything else is just kind of rusted, so no big deal. I'm just going to use the front end, and we're going to be using a Briggs & Stratton 5 horsepower motor. This is the same motor that I took off of the old go-kart and put on the new one. So this is the old motor. It runs perfectly fine. I was thinking about buying a brand new 6.5 horsepower Predator engine, but it's a drift trike, so therefore all you really need is something strong enough just to spin the tires. You don't really need to go that fast. All it really needs to do is just spin the tires. So this should be plenty horsepower. So also I have all the steel I think I need. I got the motor plate and I got the 3/4 inch axle. It's galvanized, but I'm gonna grind all the galvanized shit off just so I don't kill myself. And I also got a seat. This is a boat seat. You can get these things at Walmart for like 17 bucks. They're not too bad and they're pretty comfortable. So yeah, and next is we have the rear end tires. I made these a long time ago for a different project. What they basically are is just end caps, PVC end caps, and I took plywood and just glued it in there and then drilled a hole and then put a sleeve in there so a 3/4 inch shaft can fit right in there, and you should work just fine. We also have, I'm going to attempt to put a disc brake on the back. I'm gonna see if I can. If I can't, I'll just take it right off. I don't really need one. I just want to see if I can do it. We also have our centrifugal clutch and our sprocket with a 7/8 bore. So I'm gonna have to put a sleeve on the shaft to make it 3/4. These were actually off of a old project. Nobody rode that project, so it's kind of just wasting there. So I took it off. I'm going to replace it with a different clutch, a number 40 chain, and number 40 sprocket. So I'm not destroying that project. I'm just taking the old parts off of it and replacing new ones. I also have the bearings, 3/4 inch bearings. They're used, but they should be fine. So yeah, I believe I have everything I need to build this thing. I didn't really want to spend that much money on this thing. I have been spending a lot of money on all these projects, so this one's I'm kind of cheaping out. So but it should be good and should work just fine. So yeah, let's get started. Alright, first things first, we got to take the BMX bike, cut the frame right there, grind down all the welds and make sure everything's flat, grind off all the paint, and to prepare that surface for welding. That's where we're going to be putting the first piece on of the frame and then building the entire frame from there. Next, we got to pump the tire up, make sure it holds air, and if it doesn't hold air right now, it's easier to replace it now than it is at the end of the project. Okay, so I took the frame, cut it off right here, and ground off all the old paint. You don't want paint in the weld. And I pumped up the tire. Seems to be holding air just fine, which is awesome. I don't have to replace the tire. Plus this tire is in pretty good shape. There's not really that much wear on it. It's just a little dirty, which is not that big a deal. So next step on building the frame is take this 1.25 inch steel square tubing, putting it right up against there, and then cutting a bevel out so it fits perfectly snugly against the thing so you can weld it. And you don't want it too close to the tire, you don't want it too far. You want to have it about a inch and a half to 2 to 3 inches from the tire. Anywhere around there is fine. I find that doing this step first is the easiest. You don't want to, it's fine to do the entire length, and then once you get that on, then you weld on the second piece, which is the part that goes underneath the seat, and then everything just seems to go nicely from there. So, when you're done, you should have something that looks like this, and this perfectly fits right there. I know I said 2 to 3 inches, but 2 inches should be just fine. It's actually 1.5 inches. The closer the tire is to the metal, the shorter you can make it. So I'm trying to make this thing as short as possible. So next thing to do is to weld it, and you really want to make sure the weld right here is as strong as you can make it. If the weld fails right here, you're kind of screwed, because the whole thing right here is just holding up the whole front end. And if the weld fails while you're riding it, you're kind of really screwed. Okay, so I got this piece welded on, and once I'm done building the frame, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a steel plate and like put it in here, and like a gusset, I guess you could call it, and weld it on there just to strengthen it. I'm also gonna put one right here. So when I'm building these projects, I find it a lot easier to take brick and just lay all this stuff out, and therefore you can look at it and see if it's gonna work or not, and looks pretty good. I got the height of the bar pretty good. It's like 1 brick high, because the tire is like 1 brick off the ground, so so it's gonna be like that much off the ground. So next step is to take that, cut a little bit off right there, and weld it on. Should be simple enough. This thing's coming together really well. Alright, it is a new day, and this is the exciting part where you get to kind of just lay everything out and size everything up, making sure it all is going to fit together before you start cutting and welding. So this is what I think it's going to look like. This is really kind of short. I'm not used to how short it is, but it is 3 feet, which is the standard for a drift trike. It just looks really small to me. You may not look it on the camera, but it just looks really small. I'm used to 4 feet, but anyway, so this is what it's gonna look like. I got the shaft, sized perfectly. It's gonna go right there. I marked right there where I need to cut, so I'm gonna cut that. That's the access, and then take another 1.25 inch steel square tubing, weld it on right there. And what I'm going to do is I'm gonna move the motor over there a tiny bit more, and I'm gonna take the sprocket, line it up right here, and originally I was thinking about putting the sprocket here and then putting the bearing on this side of the sprocket, but I was thinking that's a lot of overhang for this wheel. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the bearing on this side of the sprocket, which is going to make me have to build a little box. So what it's going to be is the bearing's going to be attached to here, so there's going to be a piece on here, and then a piece right here, and then on this side, and then another one going to here to the middle piece, and then just going the whole length of the tube, or of the axle. So the bearing's going to be here on this one, and the sprocket's going to be on this side. It's just going to make it to where I can put the bearing as close to the wheel as possible, therefore making less stress on this axle. And it's gonna just make it to where I also can move the motor to the middle, because you don't want to have the motor on the side. You kind of want it towards the middle. So yeah, it's looking awesome. This grinder is a piece of shit. Okay, so I got the rear end assembly almost done. The only thing I have to do left is drill the holes for the bolts to bolt on the pillow block bearings. So this is what I was talking about with the whole box thing. Sprocket's going to go right here. Motor obviously is going to go right here. Chain goes through there. And bearings right there. Why I did this is because I wanted the bearing as close to the tire as possible. I was thinking about putting a brake, the disc brake right here, but you don't really need brakes for your back end. The tires, if you do hit the brakes, the tires are just gonna lock up and just skid, so they're really worthless. It would be, I don't know, it would be kind of fun to lock the back brakes and just kind of skid around while you're slowing down. I don't know, but that's kind of the whole thing. You just gas it and it does the same thing. I don't know. I'm not gonna do it. It's gonna be a little too hard. I'm not entirely sure I could do it either way. So I'm not gonna do the disc brakes. It's kind of a waste of time. So the next step is to obviously drill the holes for pillow block bearings. I got this 1/8 inch steel. I'm gonna cut a little square that fits perfectly on this pillow block bearing, and then so I can drill the holes. Okay, so the rear end is done. Bearings are on. I haven't bolted them down yet, but they're on. The axle is pretty straight on the everything. So next step is just to take this and weld it onto there. Okay, so we got this welded on. Seems to be pretty good. It's perfectly level. It's perfect. This is the end of part 1. Part 2 is going to be about putting the motor on, putting the seat on, just finishing everything. There's going to be a lot more welding because there's going to be I have to weld just a bunch of things just to strengthen this frame up, make sure it's not going to fall or bend or anything. So part 2 should be coming out like a week after part 1. So look for that, and thank you for watching. Subscribe and have a nice day.